What's going on today, guys? It's another video from Hazmat Trucker, and today I just wanted to talk about an experience I had on Monday night and tell you guys about it as another example of the kind of weather we deal with here in Wyoming on a regular basis. So Monday night, I had gone down to Denver, loaded, and was coming back up to Laramie. So I was on I-80 westbound, just west of Cheyenne, and I started to run into some snow. Not too big a deal, even though it was blowing really hard. The visibility was still good. There wasn't any major ice on the road yet. But I was only about halfway to the summit that is in between Laramie and Cheyenne. To get to Laramie, you have to pass through a small ridge of mountains. And going from east to west, from Cheyenne to Laramie, you're only climbing about 2,400 feet or so over the course of 35 miles. So it's very gradual. But on the other side of the summit is a 5% grade, which is not significant. It's not the world's steepest grade, obviously, but it's enough to cause some concern, especially if a snowstorm comes in and people are not expecting ice. And that's exactly what happened on Monday night. So I kept climbing towards the summit, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. Again, even as I got extremely close to the summit, still no major ice. Visibility was a bit worse, but still about a quarter of a mile or so. And so I kept going. The DOT message boards that we have along the highway here in Wyoming, they didn't say anything specific that would cause alarm other than the normal watch out for slick spots, turn off your cruise control. However, as you crest the summit, and you pass the last opportunity to get off the highway, which is a rest area on top of the summit, there is one last message board that is about a quarter mile past the exit. But as I passed the exit, I read the message board. It said, "Crash ahead 3 miles, be prepared to stop." And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. So I immediately slow down even further. I'm crawling now to about 20 miles an hour at most, probably about 15. As I'm just starting to descend, immediately turn my hazards on. Everybody ahead of me as well was just crawling along as they went down the hill. As I got further down the hill, it got way icier. And icy to the point where about a half a mile later or so, everybody was starting to park on the highway because there was a crash ahead and there was trucks ahead of them that weren't letting them go any further. So everyone smartly started to pull off to the side. And as I was about to do that myself, a sheriff deputy came up the highway and started waving people down with a flashlight, saying that they needed to keep moving. So I continued down slowly but surely, just crawling along at about 15 miles an hour or so. And then about another half mile after that, everybody was again stopped. And there was nowhere to go because there was trucks not only on the side of the highway, but also right in front of me. And so at this point, I made sure to keep some distance between the trucks that were next to me because, again, I'm loaded with diesel. So if anyone crashes into me, it's going to be a giant mess. So at this point, I can't get to the side of the road because it's already lined with trucks. And I stopped myself, giving at least 100 yards between me and the next vehicle in front of me. And so I'm also making sure constantly to check in my mirrors to see if somebody's going to come flying down. So if I can try and get to the side or try and get out of the way, that I can. But looking back at it, I should have pulled off to the side a lot sooner. But it is what it is. I had to park more or less in the left-hand lane at the time. So everybody stopped ahead of me, and I tried to pull my parking brakes and let go of the brake pedal with my foot. But as soon as I pull my parking brake and step off the brake pedal, I start sliding forward. It is that slick outside. So a thought came into my mind, man, I probably should have chained up. But, again, it's too late at this point. If you're in the middle of the road, don't get out and try and chain. It's way too dangerous. So the best course of action at this point is just to stay alert to what's going on behind you and ahead of you, and stay in the truck. And I was then stuck there for about an hour and a half or so, just sitting on the highway. So this is again why you need to make sure you always have adequate food, adequate water, adequate clothing for the weather that you may encounter, because you never know when you're just going to get stuck out there. If a crash happens or if anything happens. And that's why I always bring a change of clothes with me and just try to be as prepared as I can for any situation. So the hour and a half or so goes by, and we see a state trooper come up our side of the highway and start waving people by to continue going down the road slowly, so that they can actually close the road properly. And so we all start to crawl about 5 miles an hour, because that's about all we can manage before we start all sliding out. And again, as we're going through some of the curves, it was so slick out that I was starting to slide in towards the middle of the road, or the median, and that was without applying my brakes. So the only solution to that is you need to actually give the truck some gas so that you can pull yourself out of that slide. Now, if you're braking and you're sliding, that means you need to let go of the brakes. Stay in a low gear, first or second. Stab brake, meaning you push down on the brake pedal hard and you quickly release. I keep going down the hill, and about a half mile from the bottom of the hill, I see where people had gone wrong. It was a left-hand curve that was just a complete sheet of ice. And two trucks had been on the inside lane, and they had jackknifed, and they were sitting against the inside median. Everybody's trying to stay as far right as they can to avoid sliding into the other trucks that are already against the median. So when it was my turn, I stayed basically on the right-hand shoulder. But even as I was going down on the right-hand shoulder, my trailer was still sliding down towards the inside where the other trucks were on the median. Even though we had two brand new drive tires on the truck that I was using, it didn't matter. And tires don't really matter when everything's just a sheet of ice, especially if you have a lot of weight to you and you have gravity trying to push you down the hill as well. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. The only solution to that is to try and get off road if you can. And so fortunately at that point, I was able to get off even the right-hand shoulder of the road and get completely off the interstate and get onto some dirt, because at least dirt or rocks, or even worst case scenario, you want to drive on fresh snow that's not completely compacted yet, because that at least provides you some traction versus just driving on the pavement that's a sheet of ice. So you need something that will give your tires grip, and driving off-road around the road markers is what I had to do while we were still in that curve and trying to get past those two trucks that had jackknifed. So eventually I passed them, the road straightened out, and we came to the bottom of the hill, and I was able to pick up some decent speed as I came into Laramie. But ultimately, the moral of the story is just watch your speed, pay attention to what's going on around you, and if you absolutely have to, it's better to go off the road just to get some traction than to try and stay on the road and slide into other trucks, because that's a pretty consistent theme in the winter time, and not just around here, but in every state that gets ice consistently. And the thumbnail that I'm going to use for this video is where I was parked in the middle of the road, and where I was stuck. So just to give you guys an idea. But if you guys would like me to do any other videos talking about anything else, please just let me know in the comment section down below. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. God bless.